Hello everyone, this is Sarah with the York County Library. Welcome. Today we are going to be making some marker watercolor cards. So this is a fairly simple craft that you could do, and I tried to make sure that the materials are as simple as possible. This is actually a craft that I am borrowing from a coworker who did this as a program. And all you're going to need is some watercolor paper. You can get this in small pads of paper. I've taken a large sheet that I had and cut it down to smaller size. If you don't have watercolor paper, something that is thicker than just computer paper is going to be better, but it will kind of buckle. But cardstock or sketch paper might be an option if you don't have watercolor paper around. We are also going to be using a Ziploc bag. I have two here. You could also use a bag or a piece of plastic that is clear that you can see through. So saran wrap or wax paper would also work. Then you need some water-based markers. So like Crayola, washable markers are totally fine. I have these Tombow markers and I have a variety of colors. This is just a little selection. And then the last thing you're going to need is water. So I'm going to be using a couple different methods. I have a cup of water here. I can reach down in there, pick some up and sprinkle, or I have this little spritzer here, or spray bottle. So if you have a spray bottle that you could use, that would be ideal. Otherwise, you can also just use a cup of water that we'll use with our fingers. So that's all we need. We have our paper, we have our clear plastic. Remember, you can use wax paper or saran wrap, or you might even have a clear bag from something else that you want to reuse. We have our markers that are water-based, and we have our water. So let's get started and see what we can make.
Okay, so here are my materials. I've got my watercolor paper ready to go. And I've got several cutouts so I can try different colors, different patterns. I've got a variety of colored markers here. So I'm going to use this big Ziploc bag. As you can see, I can see through it. I do also have this plastic top and wax paper if I want to use it. As long as it has a slick surface and a see-through, it'll work for this. So I'm going to lay my Ziploc bag on top of my paper, and I'm going to pick out 3 to 4 colors from my markers. I'm going to go with these warm colors and then maybe with some cooler colors. The reason why you want to pick a limited range is so that the colors do not get muddled. So now I'm going to take the markers and draw on top of the Ziploc bag. Because I can see through, I can see where the marks might show up or where the blotches of color might show up on the paper. I am using the edge of the marker so I get a wider mark with it, but you can play around with how you hold the marker as you lay down the ink. So now that I have the ink down, I'm going to take my little spray bottle and spray some water on top of the marker ink. Now I'm going to bring it up closer to you, but you will see a larger droplet start to form as the water hits it. And I'm making sure to have the spray bottle kind of far away so it doesn't spray it off of the sheet. So now I am going to turn this over and down onto the paper. So I'm going to let you see and peek at this. You can see it's on the paper, but now we're going to be using our finger, hand, whatever you want to use to spread the water and the ink around on the paper. And this is what is going to create the watercolor effect. If it seems like the ink's kind of dry, you could put some more water down on the paper. Now I'm going to lift it And there's what we got. Now the paper is bowing a little bit, but after it dries, you could place it under some heavy flat objects like books. There's some ink still on the Ziploc, so I'm just going to lay that down and kind of print it and splatter it. So that's our first one done. So to set up for our next one, I am actually going to rub the ink onto my newsprint and switch it out for a clean sheet. And I started out thinking I was going to use the Ziploc again, but I decided I wanted to try something different. So I took the plastic top that I have saved from an empty can of walnuts. You can see it's just a top. So I've actually folded the outside rim out so that I can get a surface that will touch the paper like that, like a stamp. So now I'm going to do the same process. I'm going to put some marker down onto the slick surface. Then I'm going to spray it with some water. And you can see the droplets there. And I'm going to flip it over and kind of print it down and see what I can get. So I wanted to use this because it's more like a stamp. And I'm just going to move the color around a little bit. So there's my first little bit of color. Now I'm going to put some more colors down. So I had a pink, a purple, and a blue. Now I'm going to do some light blue, dark blue, and lime green. And print it down. With this, I found I got more of a splatter pattern with it, which I kind of liked. It didn't fill the entire space, so I could try different colors out and layer them. So I'm putting some dark green down with some light green and some light blue. Again, I'm spraying that and then printing down. So really just get creative with how much water you use, what colors you use, what materials you use for the paper or for the plastic, and how much water you lay down. You can see there's actually some water in this corner that I'd like to lift. So you could use a paper towel or something absorbent. I'm just going to tear off some of this newsprint and use it to pat dry some of those areas and pick up that ink. When I pick up the ink, it'll actually lighten that area. So if you want to lighten a dark area while it's still wet, you could use something like a paper towel. And there we go. So I'm going to clean that off. And switch out my newsprint. So for our third creation, I want to go back to my plastic sandwich bag. I'm going to pick out some colors. I'm going to do a mix of warm and cool. Well, one warm. So I have some light blue, some purple, a pink, and a slightly darker blue. Just going to lay that down. I have the blue kind of running towards the middle. In the end, it kind of looks like a river. When you're laying the color down, you may have something in mind that you'd like to see, or you might just be trying different shapes and patterns out. So with this, I'm not going to spray. I'm going to sprinkle water on it by putting it onto my fingertips and flicking it at the paper. And I will start to see those droplets form, but this time they won't be as small and uniform. They'll be kind of little blobs on the paper. So I'll bring that up so you can see. So with this, it's a little wetter, so I was going to press the paper down onto it, which you could do, but I decided to be a little dangerous and flip it on top. Now, because the water sat so heavy and there are larger drops, it might drip some, but it still has a really cool effect. So again, you could just lay it down and bring it back up for more of a printed look, but I'm gonna move those colors around with my finger. And do remember when you're picking out colors, if you do blue and green and yellow, the blue and yellow might come together to make more green. So I'm just using that excess ink to do a little bit of printing. Don't want to let it go to waste. And there is a lot of extra ink on this. So I'm going to take a little strip of plastic bag that's left over from my plarn video or plastic yarn video. I'm going to scrunch it up and pat it around the paper. This is a great way to get texture and to take that excess ink that might be on the paper and move it elsewhere. You could use other materials too. Paper towel again will lighten it, but it could also create a really cool texture or pattern if you scrunch it up. So there's all three. They've dried. And I think I want to do something with them. You could do this, cut some paper out to make a shape or design. I made this flower. You could do this and put it onto a card. So I'm going to fold my orange and pink one in half for a card. I'm going to just simply write thank you on the front. And after I was done writing thank you, I thought it might be nice to take some of my silver gel pen and go into it and make some little dots. So there's the thank you. And now I'm just going to go in and put those dots in. Again, you could decorate, you could put cutout pieces on top in different shapes. You could use a paint pen on this. All right, so I have one card. With this, I wanted to take my silver gel pen and just kind of trace around the shapes on the outside. I kind of liked the idea of the blue in the middle as kind of a river, and this kind of looked like a map. So I started just drawing around shapes that I saw in the blobs of color. So there you can see my shiny.
Okay friends, and that's all for today in our marker watercolor card making. I hope that you found this craft fun and interesting, and I hope that you experiment with different materials and color combinations at home. So we saw me make this card in the video, this thank you card. I also decided to take the piece where I put the silver lining and to put a little hello in the corner down here. So now it's a card as well. Remember that you can also take what you create, cut it up, and create different shapes, flowers, or embellishments for your cards. And I think I might turn this into a cover for a freestyle journal. There is a video where I make and show you the process of how I create little freestyle journals. For example, this right here is a little freestyle journal using a piece of art. And it has different kinds of paper on the inside that I can use. And it was a whole art project in itself. Okay friends, well, that's it for me today. But of course, keep going with this if you enjoyed it. Remember that we have the Summer Learning Challenge going on, and you can register. Check out the description below for more information. I'll also make sure to put some information for some watercolor classes on Creative Bug, as well as some titles for watercolor books on Hoopla, our virtual library, and also ones you can find in the catalog. So until next time, friends, of course, stay safe, and as always, stay creative, York County.